Now we're waiting on the software to do what it does. But Axe Media Group's already live.
Looks like we need to go 2 minutes over to get our hour in.
That'd be fine. That way I'll give you a
Yeah,
chance
there's
to do
nobody
your slow
after
close.
us. There's nobody following us, so
No, except my sleep maybe, but other than that, 2
That's
minutes
not
ain't going to make a
important.
difference. 2 minutes ain't going to make no difference.
3 minutes.
All right, here we go, Jay. You ready?
Yep.
Audio on?
Yep, I think so.
Well, they probably heard everything we're saying. Attention, everybody. The views expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Axe Ministry, Axe Media Group, and or their affiliate and subordinated ministries and or nonprofits. So without any further ado, please enjoy the show.
That'd be a humdinger of a funeral. Start out that way.
now you know why it's called the happy hour. We have our theme music. We have a disclaimer by our station manager, as though we were going to say anything that would cause a problem for Axe Ministry.
No, never.
Ha, ha, ha.
Nobody ever gets offended, right?
That's right. And then, right after the theme music, Nancy says that'd make a humdinger of a song for a funeral.
Your funeral.
Oh, mine. I told the guys before we went on camera that a lot of people are planning my homegoing, and I haven't even bought the ticket yet. How can you punch my ticket when I haven't bought it? Hello, everybody. This is the Happy Hour broadcast with old Dr. Paul and Miss Nancy, and we have a special guest today, Greg Boley. So stay tuned and tell a friend to get on board and watch what we're going to be doing here. It's going to be interesting, I guarantee it, especially this time. What are you laughing about? This time of year. I have some interesting things to tell you. I'm not going to do a lot of poetry. How about that? I'm not going to do my usual thing about, the friendliest show on radio. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to do this is the best look on Facebook. Not going to do it. And I'm not going to do that thing about every rube watches us on YouTube. I'm not going to do that.
I'm so glad.
And I'm not going to say anything about everybody being a glitter if they watch us on Twitter. I'm not going to do that today. Instead, I'm going to say hello to Shirley Simpson. I can't pass up Shirley up there in St. Joseph, Missouri, gateway to the west. No, that's St. Louis. St. Joe is the home of the Pony Express. And the place where that dirty little coward shot Mr. Howard and laid poor Jesse in his grave. Jesse James, that is. And Shirley was my first secretary. Hello, Shirley. Welcome aboard. And Judy Nickel. Judy, I apologize. I forgot you last week down there in Bryant, Texas. Bless your heart. I know you're watching and listening. Tell a friend. And then my guy that was a teenager in my church when I was a pastor in St. Joe, way over in Chesterfield, Missouri. That's in the St. Louis County area of Missouri. And he's now a retired school administrator. And he was a teenager in my church. I directed his God and Country work for the Boy Scouts. And let's see. Oh, up in northeast Missouri, all those people there. Janie Wood and all her crew. And people in Germany, Pakistan. And I have to greet my friends in France. Como está? Oh, that's Spanish. That's for the folks in Mexico. In France, comment allez-vous, mes amis? Il est très bonjour aujourd'hui, n'est-ce pas? That's my friends.
That sounds France.
That's French. Okay, here we go with our friend who owns and operates Quality Electric, Greg Boley. Greg, welcome to the Happy Hour. We're glad to have you, friend.
Well, thank you.
Greg is a great guy. I found him working in the Yellow Pages years ago. And what made him stand out among all of those people advertising their services as electricians was the fact it said, senior citizen discount. I jumped on that because I qualify. And as a result, Greg has been not only our electrician, but he's been our friend over the years, and he's done a ton of work for us in our home. And I like it because he carries a cell phone, and I can always get a hold of him. when there's something comes up. So, Greg, let's begin with your history as an electrician. When did you start all this thing? I know you're a licensed electrician and all that good stuff. When did you start all this?
Well, my career as an electrician began in the U.S. Navy, actually, in 1973.
Wow.
I became an electrician's mate in the Navy and served 4 year. I served a 4-year term in the Navy. Decided to get out, and then I got into construction. I lived in Florida for many years, although I hail from Chillicothe, Missouri.
Oh, I know Chillicothe very well.
The self-proclaimed sliced bread area. Anyway, so I worked in the construction field for many years and slowly attained higher degrees of experience and decided to go on my own. And of course, coming up through construction, taking the exams,
Right.
becoming a master electrician.
Folks, those of you who live out of this area, let me pinpoint for you where we are. We're in Springfield, Missouri. We're in the southwest quarter of Missouri, state of Missouri, United States of America, which puts us sort of in the middle of the globe for those of you who are overseas. Those of you in the United States, we're right in the middle of the United States, thereabouts. And Greg, I fondly refer to this, my adopted hometown, and I love Springfield. Been here since August of '77.
No, that's right.
I fondly refer to it as Springburg, USA. And but I'm originally from north central Missouri. I grew up in Moberly,
Oh, sure.
and I was when I was like 19 years old. I was 18. I went to a special youth rally in Brookfield, Missouri, which is neighbors to Chillicothe, and had a girlfriend. There were two couples of us. Had a girlfriend with me, and they'd had a special meeting in a Presbyterian church, and this very good speaker managed to get all these young people down to the altar. They're all dedicating their lives to the ministry. Some are crying they're going to become missionaries, and I didn't go down there. I sat back there and smug, my arms crossed like this, folks. I was like, not me. And so we left there. We went to the Methodist church for a big meeting there in the same town, and walked up to that big old Gothic-style church and opened the doors, and I said, well, if I was ever going to be a preacher, which isn't going to happen, I'd be the pastor of a church like this. 10 years later, I walked through the doors of that church as its pastor. How about that? But in the meantime, on our way home, I'm riding in the back seat, and I've got my arm around my girlfriend, and
Wasn't
she's
me.
still crying. It wasn't Nancy. It
Dr.
was-
Paul
Nancy
Nancy's
hadn't
right
even,
there.
Nancy hadn't come along yet, hardly. Nancy's young. She's just a kid. Anyway, I've got my arm around this girlfriend, and she's still crying about going to be a missionary. And I started laughing. I said, you're not going to be a missionary. I'll end up being a preacher before you're a missionary, and that's not going to happen. She threw my arm around, and moved over. That was the end of that. But I did manage to finish college and seminary, and then a year after seminary, I found myself walking through the doors of that church in Brookfield, Missouri. Became well acquainted with Chillicothe, especially the golf course.
Did you get it before she was a missionary?
Huh?
Did you complete it before she became a missionary?
She never did become a missionary.
So you won.
I won. I was right.
That doesn't happen often.
Here's the thing, Matt. Now, by the way, Greg, I call Matt Matthew Dillon Pearson, and I called Jay, his cousin. I called him Festus. So, and those guys don't know what Gunsmoke's all about.
Gunsmoke.
But we know.
Gunsmoke's all about.
Anyway, Chillicothe had a Methodist pastor there when I was at Brookfield, and we played golf a lot on Chillicothe golf course. And
Calling on the Greens.
You had a fella in Chillicothe who was very unique. His first name was Jerry, and he became a congressman.
Ah, yes.
And he had won the Democrat nomination for the United States Senate and was on his way to Kansas City with his wife and 2 children to accept the nomination of his party. His plane, 2-engine plane, barely got off the ground and plunged back to the earth, killed all of them. But yeah, I knew the man. He was a great, great man.
I remember that day.
Oh, wow.
He had a Charlie cattle ranch.
Yes.
And back when computers were in their infancy, he had everything computerized. Greg, I really want us to talk somewhat about this season of the year and all the electrical things that can go wrong. What can people do? We hear too much about electrical fires because of this time of year. Want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, sure, I can. I think a lot of the fires are initiated from extension cords, perhaps. That's one of the big issues. Space heaters. I know we've had this discussion recently about space heaters.
Right.
And the misunderstanding or just not knowing some of the requirements to keep a fire from happening. If you use an extension cord, which it's highly recommended that you do not on a space heater because they draw so much power. Typically a space heater will draw 1,500 watts plus, and a household circuit, typically where they are plugged in, bedrooms, living room areas, those circuits are only capable of 1,500 watts.
Wow.
And so obviously heat is a factor with the overload, and if it continues for any extended period of time, that can get to the point where it can flash and create a fire. So it's very important that people understand their space heaters, limitations, requirements. Every small appliance has a UL listing on it that will tell you the usage, and typically they will be listed in wattages. 1,500 watts is pretty common. So people should just understand that that is maximizing a circuit in a home, especially what the National Electric Code indicates as continuous use, and that's anything that is used over exceeding a 4-hour period of time, which space heaters would obviously qualify for that. They're typically on 24 hours,
Right.
especially overnight. I would highly recommend people not use extension cords for that application unless they do have an extension cord that has a large enough wire gauge to accommodate the amount of power that is being used.
Like a heavy duty, maybe even one that would be designed for power equipment, like
Yes, the extension cords are also UL listed, and they will indicate the wire gauge size of them, and you would not want to use an extension cord with a smaller wire gauge than a 14, which will carry 1,500 watts.
Okay, and remember that, folks. Any wire that you're going to have hooked up like that, 14 gauge minimum. Let me tell you, watch at the bottom of your screen. You'll see there Greg Boley's name, I'm sure, and his company and his phone number. Let me tell you how wonderful it is to have that number in your cell phone. Not many days ago, I think it was on a weekend, my writing room has tendency to be a little chilly, so I hooked up a cow barn heater. Now, they draw some amps.
Yes.
And had it so it was keep my feet warm because my writing room had gotten cold. And at the same time, Nancy plugged in the vacuum sweeper.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, The lights are out. And I'm waiting, because we have a whole house generator, I'm waiting for the generator to come on in 10 seconds. It doesn't. So I realized the generator's only going to do that if the power to the house is out. It's not going to come on because you have a circuit blown. Now, let me stick with me here, folks. I'm not the only one who's been through this. I noticed that the lights, part of the lights worked in my writing room. My computer didn't go off, but the ceiling light went off, and lights in the family room, which is next to it, they went off, and the lights in our entrance foyer went off, but the lights in the kitchen are still on. The lights in the hallway going down to the bedrooms, they're still on. The lights are still working downstairs. And, you know, I'm not an electrician, don't want to be one, by the way. So the natural thing, being a good husband, check the circuits. The breakers. Now, they used to be fuse boxes. We'll go there another time. You know, you had to screw a fuse in, you know, and all that.
Jay's house still has fuses.
Fuse box. So I have a breaker, and I see this one that's not quite on, and I push it over, and it doesn't stick. It just bounces back. And I thought, well, that one isn't supposed to be a problem. So I call Greg on his cell phone, that number right there. He answered, and I proceeded to tell him what was going on. And he says, well, you know, it's got to be a breaker because in the meantime, somehow along the way, Nancy goes down there and she moves that to one side and then pushes it back over and it snaps.
You knew how to do it, didn't you, Nancy?
And so at the same time, I'm checking a power strip. Show you how brilliant I am. I told you I'm not an electrician. Don't want to be one. I'm checking the power strip, thinking maybe it caused something. And when I pushed the power strip, it came on.
Were you looking for the flux capacitor?
Yeah.
The cloaking device, trying to figure it out?
Yeah, and then at the same time the lights came on because simultaneously Nancy figured out the breaker down on the patio.
Yes.
And we had that particular circuit restored. Greg explained to me what had happened. We had overloaded that one circuit.
Yes.
Now, that circuit was designed for how much, Greg?
1,500 watts.
And we had two of them going.
Yes, you had. You much exceeded its ability. You know, so that brings something else up. Something that a average homeowner may not realize and shouldn't understand is when a circuit breaker trips, it doesn't trip completely off. It goes to the center.
That's right.
And when you try to turn it back on, it will not turn on. But what you have to do is to continue to push it to the off position completely and then reset it.
That's what Nancy did, and I didn't. Isn't that
Yes.
something?
I get a lot of calls from people that I explain that to them, saving them some service money and making them more aware of the circumstances and situation.
We had a deal too with our toaster one time. I asked you about because I put the toast in, pushed the lever down, and it kept coming back up. There was a deal in the wall switch that had to be on, but there was something about that toaster. What was it? That I've forgotten what it was, but you explained it, and so my toaster's worked ever since. The important thing, folks, is that number at the bottom of the screen. When you're as ignorant as I am, call Greg. He answers his phone, he returns calls, and he's very reachable because he is quality electric, and he's a quality electrician. We're going to come back to him in just a minute.
If that light switch is giving you trouble, he'll be there on the double.
There you go. You're stealing my thunder. How about it? That's okay.
Sorry, Dr. Paul.
That's just all right. You can do that anytime you want to. Matthew Dillon Pearson. Give us a commercial for Natural Solutions Store, will you? You ought to know it by heart by now.
I would love to do that, and I'm getting ready to as we speak.
All right.
So this might take a second.
Because Natural Solutions Store helps to make this broadcast possible.
All right, now, Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Producer's Desk. I am Matt. In case you don't know, I'm sure you already do, but today's show is brought to you by NaturalSolutionStore.bz. That is NaturalSolutionStore.bz. Today's product that I'm featuring is a product known as 5-HTP. All right, now, what is 5-HTP, you might ask? Right, Dr. Paul?
Right.
Might ask? Well, what it is it's a building block of serotonin. That's the feel-good neurotransmitter that regulates our moods, sleep cycles, and even influences our response to pain.
Oh, thank you.
Preliminary
Jesus.
evidence suggests that the supplementation of 5-HTP may promote weight loss by helping to reduce appetite and caloric intake. Herbal Alchemist's 5-HTP provides natural mood-enhancing ingredients to promote well-being and stress reduction, which may be especially beneficial for those on a weight management program. Now, this bottle contains 180 capsules, and it has up to 6 times as many as our competitors. So all of Herbal Alchemist products are USA manufactured in an FDA-registered facility according to strict CGMP standards. Our formulation is non-GMO, gluten-free, and all-natural. Now, these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any disease. And as always, consult your physician before changing your diet or using a new food. And with that, back to you guys.
All right. Thank you very much, Matthew. I wanted to hit on a little bit of something here, since Natural Solution Store has to do with maintaining good health with the supplements that we need and so forth. As of this morning, I found this information. There's a local effort here by a man who puts on a late-night talk show type thing about once a month to raise $27,000 for a nonprofit called RIP Medical Debt. RIP means rest in peace. Now, what they're doing is this RIP Medical Debt nonprofit, they are buying medical debt for pennies on the dollar and then forgiving the debt. So they have a goal of raising $27,000. They're going to buy $2.7 million worth of medical debt and forgive it. How about that?
That's great.
Now, you think, here's some of the figures on medical debt. Greene County, that's where Springburg, USA is located, folks. Greene County, medical debt, and I'll just round it off, $121,817, right at $122,000.
That's
Polk,
it?
Polk County, yeah. Polk County, medical debt, $61,779. Dallas County, $105,105. Webster County, almost $61,000. Christian County, right at $140,000. Dade County, almost $1 million. Lawrence County, almost $77,000. Berry County, right at $120,000. McDonald County, over $733,000. Newton County, $124,000 plus. Jasper County, where Joplin is located, $606,251.12. Barton County, over $40,000. Vernon County, over $56,000. Stone County, almost $54,000. Taney County, almost $193,000. That's counting down south of us, including Branson. Cedar County, a little over $29,000. That's a small county, by the way, folks, a little rural county. Wright County, almost $29,000. Douglas County, over $11,000. Ozark County, almost $26,000. Laclede County, almost $182,000. McDonald County, $733,869.54. For those who don't know it, McDonald County used to be the poorest county in Missouri. I don't know if it still is or not, but it was the poorest county.
Hickory
Now,
County is second poorest.
which one?
Hickory County?
Hickory County, okay.
It was.
Now, and this is just, these are counties in southwest Missouri. Totals up to $2.7 million in medical debt. These guys, RIP Medical Debt, nonprofit, they've been at this a while. They raise money, buy the debt for pennies on the dollar, then forgive the debt. powerful. Now, Acts Ministry is a friend to the nonprofit. I don't mind tooting the horn of RIP at all. So those people who are available want to go to a show this Saturday night, look it up locally here. You can go and you help to put medical debt where it belongs, in the grave. Now, talking about medical stuff, Greg, I don't want to go someplace that we didn't cover ahead of time. I don't want to go in a place where it's not comfortable for you. But I know you had a major health issue, did you not?
Yes, I'm a cancer survivor.
A cancer survivor. Hmm. And how are
That's
you getting
awesome.
along with all that?
Great, actually. It's a little bit of a inconvenience, my situation, but overall, very well, actually.
And I admired this because here we're talking about medical debt. Here we have a man who's working every day, helping people as an electrician, gives the senior citizen discount, all the good stuff, and he is a cancer survivor, and I happen to know about his the cancer and the inconvenience that he lives with, and he's working every day.
True.
Now, also to probe a little bit, how old are you, Greg?
I'm 64.
I rest my case,
Man, he's young.
and I know all kinds of people who would have been on disability if they'd have had what he had. But he still runs his company and works and still gives a senior citizen discount.
Thank you.
Wow. Be sure and write down that number so that when you have an electrical problem, you call Quality Electric. You'll talk personally to Greg Boley because you don't have anybody else answering the phone for you, do you?
No, I do not. No, I do not.
You don't have anybody else. You're keeping your own bookwork and everything, aren't you?
Yes, I am. No, I used to have a larger company by far. I really just enjoy the interaction with people,
Uh-huh.
and I like to keep it small. I'm not really interested in creating a larger company at this point in my life, and so it's just it's enjoyable and it's kind of a giving back.
Yeah, and well, it is giving back, and it's very personal. I really like that.
That's what I want it to be.
And, you know, you call some places, folks, and you get these aggravating phone menus, you know, press 1 for English, you know, and then they drag you around through all kinds of things, press the button for this, that, and something else. Not so with Greg Boley. When you call Quality Electric, that number, Greg answers.
And what's that number?
That number's on the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
But, Greg, tell them your number anyway.
It's area code 417-893-9319.
Yeah, for those listening by radio,
That's right.
thank you, Nancy. Those listening by radio and not watching, if you're listening by radio, you don't see what's scrolling. So give us the number again.
That's
Greg.
right.
Area code 417-893-9319.
Okay, now we've dealt here a little bit with medical debt, which leads us into the financial matters. And as a small businessman, I know you pay attention somewhat to what's going on in the news or and how the economic system affects your business, I'm sure. Do you notice when money is tight that your business may experience? Do people put off electrical stuff?
Yes, they do. Obviously, you have to take care of yourself or your circumstances. Electrical repair work can be put off, as many other things can be put off, to take care of what's really important at the moment.
Well, speaking monetarily, my research of a couple of years ago showed that top 1% of the income recipients in this country pay 38% of our taxes in this country. 1% of the people pay 38% of the taxes. 5% of the people pay 59% of the taxes. 10% of the people pay 70% of the taxes. And 25% of the people pay 86% of the taxes. So obviously there's some people who don't pay tax, but whenever we see the ebb and tide in the economic situation in this country and how much money at least people perceive that they have available, it affects every small business.
It does.
Greg, I've been, this will be the third week in a row, and I'm going to repeat this, I don't know how many times till people finally get it. This is America's money problem. Now, these figures are good for year 2008. They'll soon be 12 years old, so you have to multiply. Anyway, they projected that in 2018, the interest on the national debt would be 2/3 of the government's income. I think that can be verified. Now remember, this was done in 2008, and it was relative to 2018. In 2018, if you took a stack of $1,000 bills, now a $1,000 bill is about the thickness of this piece of paper. If you take a stack of $1,000 bills, 4 inches tall, that's $1 million. A stack of $1,000 bills, 67 miles high, is $1 trillion with a T, $1 trillion. The debt in 2008 equaled a stack of $1,000 bills 804 miles high. That was in 2008.
Incredible.
Now our debt is like 3 times that. So we're looking at a stack of $1,000 bills 2,400 miles high. It's unbelievable. You can't imagine that. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
It's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's a lot of air, you know. But all of these things affect a small businessman. What do you do to get your clients, your customers, what do you just? I found you in the Yellow Pages. Are you still there?
In some books, yes. Looking for ways for marketing, yes. I'd look really to provide value to my customers. Mm-hmm. And the advertising is one thing. It is important to be noticed, but it's that first interaction with individuals that provides me repeat business.
Yeah, it's people promoting a person, really.
It is.
Because
that is business. It's very
I know
personal.
when I think about electrical, I think Greg Boley first. I don't think Quality Electric, your company name, for some reason. It's so personal. I just think I need to call Greg Boley, and I've got you in my phone that way. So that, and I have him in there as Electric, but then I also have it Greg Boley. And I did that at the way long time ago in case, before we got well acquainted, I forgot your name. I suggest that you put his name in your phone and do it a couple of places so that you can always find him. Greg Boley, and then add it in also as Quality Electric. Mm-hmm. And sometimes what you may want to do, instead, you might forget the company name, just put it in as Electric. That way,
sure.
Yeah. Now, let's talk electric. Electricity is a flow of electrons, I take it.
That's a correct analogy, yes.
All right. And let's talk UL is, as I recall, Underwriters Laboratory. That's what that stands
yes.
for. Are they, at one time, I was under the impression that they operated out of Chicago. I don't know for sure where they operate.
I think they still do, but I'm not absolutely sure about that.
But they've become the standard by which you check electrical appliances, equipment, electric cords, etc. Now we have people who are concerned about how electric is generated. I noticed in the news yesterday the old power plant for Springfield, they're going to decommission the last 2 units. And we have this big debate about generating electricity either with coal or with natural gas. Mm-hmm. Now solar has come into play. Have you had any experience with people who have solar systems like on their roof maybe for their
Yes, I
electric.
have. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. That's the big thing now is trying to get solar set up. What do you know about it, or what can you tell us?
Well, the solar cell panels, of course, convert the sun's rays, creating electricity, and that, of course, then flows to equipment that ties into your utility line. And the way it operates now, it's not actually operating your home. They are generating that electricity and sending it back through the utility line, and that is, and then the utility companies are compensating their customers for that amount of power that is generated and added back into their system, and that then comes off of your electric bill as a price reduction because you are also generating electricity. So it's a different philosophy than it once was, where the generated power was strictly for the use of the individual's home. That made it, let's say, not complete, because you could not operate your entire home off of solar. You could not generate enough power to do that unless you had a very large home with enough roof space to add hundreds of panels to accommodate that. So this is a great alternative, and it seems to be working quite well. Many utility companies are providing rebates and discounts for the installation of the equipment, and you would just have to, the individual homeowner could just discuss that with their utility company to see if there is a benefit to them to install the equipment.
Many years ago, Nancy and I were in Lubbock, Texas, panhandle of Texas, way up there, for some evangelistic work, and they put us in a private home, lovely home. The owners had built a new home, and they were living in their new home, and they still had their original home. And their original home, he had a huge, I called it bank, of solar panels, not on the roof. He had them in a frame on the south side of the house, a huge bank of them. And now this has been probably maybe 12, 15 years ago. And that was the first that I'd ever seen of a solar panel setup. Now I have neighbors who have a few panels. They have like 6 panels, I think, 6 or 8 on their roof. And 4 of them face the south. And they have huge trees in front of them. And they've got 4 on the back side, which is facing the north. And it's a pitched roof. I don't know how effective that is, but I guess every little bit helps. And
Yes.
I was always under the impression that people generated that it went straight to their power. I never thought about it being added back into, for instance, in our case, we have city utilities here. It's a city-owned, municipally owned power company, utility company. So it goes back into that.
It does, yes.
Now, if somebody lives off the grid, though, it's a different matter.
Yes, it is a different matter. You can actually utilize your own generated power from the solar source by batteries. You would store that electricity into batteries, and then the battery usage would be drawn from that.
I
And
see.
so the photo cells would just act as a charging unit to the batteries.
What do you see as the future of solar power?
I think solar power is a wonderful method of generating electricity, clean, there's no pollution. I think that it's in its infancy. I think we're just seeing the beginning of what will come with solar power.
So you think this is a continuing trend that's going to grow and grow and grow?
I do. I think it will, and I think along with wind generation, those two are very sustainable for our future.
The first time that Nancy and I saw wind generators was in Texas.
Yeah.
We'd left Lubbock and we were headed south, in an area where for about an hour there was no cell phone service, and also there were warnings. You know, if you have car problems, don't get out of your car. It's rattlesnake country. It's where they hunt rattlesnakes, and you know
yes.
where I'm talking about. I can't call the name right now, but it's like the rattlesnake capital of America. You know, it was dangerous to get out of your car. So, but here's all of these wind generators. Those things are huge.
They are.
Oh,
There's
and
loads of them too, Paul.
oh my, dozens
Lots
and
and
dozens
lots.
and dozens, and they are all slowly turning. But in spite of them turning slowly, they generate a tremendous amount of power. Greg, I find it interesting that our environmentalists are sort of caught betwixt and between when it comes to wind power, because they want to protect wildlife, and yet they want to have clean power. And apparently the wind generators create some death or an injury on the part of fowls of the air, birds,
Yes.
various kinds.
Yes, that's true.
In spite of the fact that those blades move very slowly. That's amazing to me.
I think your that information about the bird kill, I've witnessed that in California primarily, where they have wind generation. Let's call it first generation
Okay.
wind generators
Okay.
that spun at a high rate of speed.
Oh, I see.
These large turbine blades that you're seeing in Kansas, Oklahoma, those, I don't think those are causing problems to birds.
Oh, it's the older generation, and well, some of the so-called forward-looking states like California had been would have the older. They would have been some of the first to have.
I believe that's
air
true.
power.
I have seen some of their first generation wind turbines, and they spin at a very high rate of speed, similar to a box fan you would have in your home.
Constructing those things, I know they're built in parts and transported to the location. I have seen blades. I think we saw them in Oklahoma being hauled on a flatbed trailer. Those things are huge.
They are.
But if you're right there, it may seem like it takes forever to build something. But if you're not there all the time, it's just like stuff grows up overnight. Nancy and I, the last time that we were in St. Joe, Missouri, we went up to Chillicothe and then went west, and we got up there in the neighborhood of Cameron, and we looked, and here's these wind generators all over the place. I thought, well, there's 2 or 3. I started counting, and they were as far as I could see off to the north. Those things, it's like a forest of them grew up overnight. I don't know how long it takes to construct those things, but I was amazed. It seemed like they just suddenly appeared. Anyway, let's go back to solar, because I'm seeing a lot of basically notices that become like advertisements on Facebook, social media. Various solar people, their product is there, or the idea, the company name, and a lot of people clicking they like. There's a lot of interest in solar power, and I wonder what I saw. I think maybe in the Springfield, one of the Springfield papers, Business Journal, maybe their magazine. The amount of solar power being used now by our city utilities has greatly increased. It's amazing how much because they put in some solar power fields.
Yes, they have.
And I can't say much about that. I think Nixon, a little town south of us, I think they put some in too.
They did. They actually were trying to provide enough electricity to power a good part of their town, as I recall. I know they do have some large fields of solar voltaic panels. I don't know really the extent or how well that's performing for them.
I can't think of anything that they could do to generate power that would be more basic than solar. I mean, when you're tapping the power of the sun, that's pretty basic.
That's true.
I mean, where else are you going to go? You know, what are you going to do with it? I want to get a word in here, a little commercial of my own for Acts Ministry. Folks, those of you watching us, I know you're gathering a lot of information here, and it's very important information for you, not only for safety here of Christmas lights and cords and space heaters and all in the wintertime and at Christmas time, but also for some of your other needs. Don't neglect the electrical aspect of your home. I know you want to have a good roof on your house. Yes, you check it regularly. I know you want to make certain you don't have termites in your home, and so you watch for that. There are all kinds of things that you watch for. Quite often, people have a plumbing problem, comes up just sight unseen. It just shows up. It's good to be able to check things, checking air ducts. Don't neglect having a checkup on your electrical system. When one time, not too many years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we had Greg at our home, and because we were having a light, some of our lights were blinking a little bit, found out that it turned out to be a city utility problem, but where I started was with Greg, and he checked all of our outlets, every one of them, tested them, made sure that we didn't have a problem in the house. Now listen, folks, this is important. My mind was put at ease about our house, but I still had to find what was causing our lights to blink, because electrical surges are not good, or electrical brief outages are not good. Greg, you may not recall, but city utilities came out. They went up at the masthead up on the roof, you know, where the power comes in, and they had a machine set up and checking things. I kept telling the guy, it's on a pole over here between the houses. It's over there. It's on that pole. You've got a short. They piddled around for about 3 days with our lights doing this thing, and I said, we've checked inside. Our electrician checked. Everything in our house is fine. They wanted to check again. I said, you're wasting your time. Finally, as a last resort, he said, I think I'll go over there and check that pole. I said, I think you should. Guess what? It was at the pole. Don't take electrical problems, pardon the pun, lightly. Or you might become brightly in a way you don't want to be. Stay on it. Have a checkup on your electrical system. Now, I was going to do a little commercial for Acts Ministry. Folks, Acts Ministry's been around officially about 26 and a half years. We actually, Nancy and I, started Acts Ministry in April. It'll be 27 years ago, along with good friend Nick Nickel, and who's now deceased. He's with the Lord. And Acts Ministry has grown as an independent, trans-denominational organization wonderfully over the years. And 5 years ago, we retired from the leadership. We're not even on the board. We're volunteers. But Dr. Jim Whining is the president and chairman of the board. He is also the chief executive officer. He's wearing 3 hats. And he's doing a good job with Acts Ministry. He is the power behind much of what goes on now concerning Acts Media Group, which we are a part of here with this broadcast. Acts Ministry operates on a budget smaller than probably the smallest local church in Springfield. It's very small. I'm not sure that I'm supposed to say, but I know it's less. I'm going to say it. Folks, it's less than $3,000 a month. I mean, way less than $3,000 a month. Way less. And it's because Acts Ministry has this concept that I had of unity in Christ through the Holy Spirit. Can't we just get along, and do something good? And in that effort, our motto originally, and still is one of them, serving where needed. That's why we've helped a kidney transplant for a man, and many other things, autism, veterans, etc., handicapped people. But Jim Whining added a second motto, which I think is very important. Doing the right thing. It's not enough to just serve where needed. You need to do the right thing while doing that. So your support, I'm speaking plainly here now, your financial support for Acts Ministry is needed. It is put to good use. There's good stewardship and reaches many, many people, multiple millions of people, I would suppose. Who knows, with the internet, we are international. Here's a little tip. We are able to reach people in Germany, Pakistan, and France with this program that we know of. We also
Trinidad.
in Trinidad. Where else, Matt?
We've had some in South America.
South America. Okay.
I don't know if it was I think Guatemala was one of them.
Okay.
There's quite a few.
All right.
We have missionaries in Pakistan, Pakistani woman who listens to the show,
Okay.
who teaches the Bible to women and children and underprivileged kids and stuff in Pakistan.
That's wonderful because, and Pakistan, as you know, is a Muslim country.
Yes.
They are on the side of India, which is a Hindu country primarily. But anyway, we also know that a few years ago, and I suppose it's still true, some man in China was downloading the Real News Review newspaper that we have and reprinting it in the particular Chinese dialect of his area and handing it out.
I believe he's still doing that.
All right. So you see, there's a tremendous influence on minimum dollars. Folks, we could even use some more equipment in this studio. There's some wonderful things that we can do with Acts Media Group if you participate. Go online.
Go online to axmediagroup.com. You can see the Real News Review there, and they're updating all the time. Plus, you can see the latest shows that we have. As the week passes by, the most current shows are there, and all you have to do is click on it. Be sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Right.
So that way you get notifications whenever we're live.
Good.
And then, of course, if you haven't done so, which would be surprising because you're watching the show, go to our Acts Media Group on Facebook. And there's not just our shows. There's all kinds of stuff posted on there daily.
All right. Now, coming up on the happy hour, next week we have Sam Blaine. Sam is a part of the family that owns Atlas Security Systems, and they do security for homes and businesses. We've had an Atlas security system in our home for years. In fact, ever since we've been there, and it's soon be 20 years. And I'll tell you what, I sleep more comfortably at night knowing that somebody isn't going to break into our house without us knowing it, etc. So that's next week. Then, in the very near future, we have Dr. Hal Higdon, who is the chancellor at Ozarks Technical Community College, a very large, one of the largest community colleges in Missouri. And I had the privilege of being on the adjunct faculty there for 10 years. I retired from it 8 years ago. Dr. Higdon will be our guest the January, what did I have him down? January 10th. January 10th. And looking forward to that. We also have coming up in the month of March our primary care physician, Dr. Jamie Durfee, a pretty little lady, small like Nancy, young, beautiful, smart as a whip. I mean, she's so smart it's uncanny, and she's looking forward to being on the show when she's on vacation so she can have a Friday morning off. Can you imagine? Here we have a busy MD, and when she gets her vacation, she wants to spend part of it, with us. So anyway, Matt's pointing at the clock. He's saying it's time to go. So here's my speeded up slow close. I usually do a slow close.
You can do the slow close. You're good. We're good. I'll approve it this time.
All right. Approved
We just want to hear your crazy rhyming.
by approval of Matthew Dillon Pearson. I am privilege to do my slow close. You have been enjoying the happy hour broadcast with old Dr. Paul and sweet Miss Nancy. Our special guest, Greg Boley, owner, operator, head honcho of Quality Electric. And you have been exposed to the friendliest show on radio and the best look on Facebook. And this has been YouTube for every rube. And by means of Twitter, we set some a-glitter. Well, seriously, folks, Friday comes around every week, so it'll do it again next week. The Lord willing, the creek don't rise. Be with us at 9:30 for a wonderful happy hour and our special guest, Sam Blaine. You'll learn all about keeping your house secure and your business secure and your car secure and you secure. Join us then. Meantime, tell a friend. Bye-bye.
All right, before we get out of here, I just want to help you out with the rhyming.
Oh, okay.
Chill like an ice cube while watching us on YouTube.
I think I used something similar that one time, and you and Festus booed it. Put your thumbs down.
No, I wouldn't boo
But
that.
I'll say thumbs up, okay?
Thumbs up. All
You
right,
heard-
thank you, everybody. Dr. Paul, thank you, and Nancy, everybody, for doing what you do. Remember to go online, check out naturalsolutionstore.bz, and as well, check out axmediagroup.com. There's so much more content on there than what we've just explained today. You can see there's actually an article that explains in detail what we do here at Axe Ministry, Axe Media Group, and Axe Television Network. So, anyways, thanks a lot, guys. We will talk to you next Friday, Dr. Paul.
You betcha.